Mm. Good day, everyone. For today, we are going to discuss the first and second topic of art appreciation. I am your teacher. I am Edel Christian B. Palad. For the guide question for today, what is art history? What is art appreciation? Art is a highly diverse range of human activities engaged in creating visual, auditory, or perform artifacts or artworks that expresses the author's imaginative or technical skills and are intended to be appreciated for their beauty or emotional power. The oldest documented form of art or visual arts, which includes images or objects in fields like painting, sculpture, printmaking, photography, and other visual media. Architecture is often included as one of the visual arts. However, like the decorative arts, it involves the creation of objects where the practical considerations of use are essential, in a way that they usually are not in another visual art, like painting. Art may be characterized in terms of its mimesis, its representation of reality, expression, communication of emotion, or other qualities. Though the definition of what constitutes art is disputed and has changed over time, general description centers on the idea of imaginative or technical skills stemming from human agency and creation. When it comes to visually identifying a work of art, there is no single set of values or aesthetic traits. A Baroque painting will not necessarily share much with contemporary performance piece, but they are both considered an art. Despite the seemingly indefinable nature of art, they have always existed as certain formal guidelines for its aesthetic judgment and analysis. Formalism is a concept in art theory in which an artistic value is determined solely by its form or how it is made. Formalism evaluates work on a purely visual level, considering medium and compositional elements as opposed to any reference to realism, context, or content. Art is often examined through interaction of the principles and elements of art. The principles of art includes movement, unity, harmony, variety, balance, contrast, proportion, and pattern. The elements include texture, form, space, shape, color, value, and line. The various interaction between the elements and principle of art helps artists to organize sensorial pleasing work of art while also giving viewers a framework within which to analyze and discuss aesthetic ideas. Let's now first define the definition of art history. Art history doesn't consist in simply listing all the art movements and placing them on a timeline. It is the study of objects of art considered within their time period. Art historians analyze visual arts, its meaning, for example, the painting, sculpture, architecture, at the time they were created. Also, another of art's history's mission is to establish authorial origin of artwork, discovering who created a particular artwork, when, and for what reason. Iconography is a major part of art history. It consists in analyzing the symbolism of work of art. For instance, art historians identify the visual elements of a painting and interpret its meaning. Art historians are interested in what the work of art represented at the time they were created. It is a way to learn about the civilization of the past. What is the definition of art appreciation? The term art appreciation is referred to the knowledge of the general and everlasting qualities that classify all great art. It is seen used to refer to the exploration of visual art forms of the introduction of the basic principles of visual literacy. It refers to analyzing the form of an artwork to general audiences to enhance their enjoyment of such work of art. It may be analyzed without reference to its subject matter, symbolism, or historical context. Art appreciation can be subjective depending on personal preference to aesthetics and form, or it can be based on several elements and principles of design, and also depends on social and cultural acceptance. Most of the modern art critics and art historians draw back from this term, underrating art appreciation as demanding too little serious thought. It takes an artist to make an art. One may perceive beauty on a daily basis. However, not every beautiful thing that can be seen or experienced may be truly called a work of art. Art is a product of man's creativity, imagination, and expression. No matter how perfectly the colors of sunsets are, and no matter how extraordinarily formed mountains are, nature is not considered art simply because it is not made by man. Not even photographs or sketches of nature, though captured or drawn by man, are work of art, but mere recordings of the beauty in nature, according to Collins and Riley in 1931. An artwork may be inspired by nature or other work of an art, but an artist invents his own forms and patterns due to what he perceives as beautiful and incorporates them in creating his masterpiece. A good example for art as an appreciation as a way of life is in the old town of Quito. The theme of the painting scene is actually hardworking. The role of art as a creative work is to depict the world in a completely different and light perspective according to Jean Paul Sartre. Each artwork beholds a beauty in its own kind, the kind that the artist sees and wants the viewers to perceive. More often than not, people are blind to this beauty, and not only those who have developed a fine sense of appreciation can experience and see the art the same way the artist did. Hence, refining one's ability to appreciate art allows him to deeply understand the purpose of an artwork and recognize the beauty it possesses. In cultivating an appreciation of art, one should also exercise and develop his taste for things that are fine and beautiful. This allows individual to make intelligent choices and decisions in acquiring necessities and luxuries, knowing what gives better value for time or money while taking into considerations the aesthetic and practical value and learning to appreciate art no matter what vocation or profession you have will lead to a fuller and more meaningful life. Art as a product of imagination, imagination as a product of an art. Where do you think famous writers, painters, and musicians get their ideas? Where do ideas in making creative solutions begin? It all starts in the human mind. It all begins with imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all we know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and there ever will be to know and understand. In an artist's mind sits a vast gallery of an artwork. An artwork does not need to be a real thing, but can be something that is imaginary, according to Collingwood in 1938. The making of this tune in his head make it an imaginary tune, an imaginative creation, an imaginary art. It remains imaginary until he hums, sings, writes down the notes of the tune on paper. However, something imaginary does not necessarily mean it can be called an art. In the same way that the imagination produces art, art also inspires imagination. Imagine being in empty room surrounded by blank white walls and floor. Would you inspire to work in such place? Let's now proceed for the second topic, the assumption and nature of art. So the different guide questions. First, art is good because it is universal or art is good because it is universal? Second, why is art universal? Third, why is art cultural? And fourth, why does art involve experience? First assumption, art is universal, timeless, spanning generations and continents, true and true. Art is a universal phenomenon and is old as human beings. Every society has its own art, which encourages and molded by the patronage it gets from its members. Artists, as members of society, create such work of an art in accordance with the existing relations in the society. Every work of art is an amalgamation of various sides as circulating in the society. Political, economic, and social changes are directly reflected in this cultural aspect, which are not often deliberate but becomes part of the activity. The veracity of the argument could be seen in the emergence of various art trends, historically synchronizing with the new development and changes in the society. The relation between art and society has been closely intertwined, and every work of an art can be seen as an outcome of several sociological factors. When we say art is universal, timeless, spanning generation and continents, true and true, it means that the art itself has existed for all as since the beginning of time. During the prehistoric times, art itself is present until today. We may see different trends, different ideologies from different generation, but art itself does not change. It only changes what it presents to the society. And what it presents to society is what people create, making use of the art. Some misconception of on the first assumption of art. Artistic made long time ago. Age is not a factor in determining art. Art is not good because it is old, but old because it is beautiful, according to Dudley et al. In 1960. Work of Rizal and Francisco Balagtas. They are commonly not read because they are old, but because they are beautifully written, regardless of their origin, time, place, or liked and enjoyed by people continuously. The second assumption of art is not nature. Man's expression of his reception of nature's man's way of interpreting nature. Art is made by man, whereas nature is given around us. Art, made directed by representation of reality, is a perception of reality. Five blind men touching an elephant. Art has its own reason why art is made it. Why is it that he what is it that he wants to show? So art is not a nature. If you modify the nature, the effect or the product becomes the art. But the nature itself is not an art. It is given to us. Remember the definition of an art that is created by imaginative mind of man. And nature is not created because of the imaginative mind of man. Rather, it was given to us. Therefore, the different perceptions of reality, the different interpretation of an art, the different interpretation of certain things is part of an art. But the nature can never be an art. The third assumption is art involves experience. It does not full detail but just an experience. Actual doing of something, for example, Rage a DJ, choreographer, painter, sculptor. All art depends on the experience, and if one is to know art, he must know it is not a fact or information, but as an experience. What we see today are art pieces of the different artists. Before creating those art pieces, those artists created it piece by piece, and through their experiences, they are able to create a new and improved art pieces that we see today. Paintings, sculpture, buildings are not what we call art. They are not the only one that can be called art. Rather, we can also include different profession, the art of teaching, the art of healing, even in our daily life, the art of walking, the art of talking. It's very unique. Every individual is unique. Therefore, it is called the art of interaction. The art of walking, the art of sleeping, everything around us is actually an art and it involves experience. The fourth assumption is art is cultural. Art influences society by changing opinions, instilling values, and translating experiences across space and time. Research has shown art affects the fundamental sense of self. Paintings, sculptures, music, literature, and other arts are often considered to be the repository of a society's collective memory. Art is cultural. Why? Art pieces, there are many reasons why art pieces has been created. For example, it's because of the sense of self of the artist. And how do these artists created their sense of self? It's because of the society. One of the factors that affects the personality, the behavior, the attitude, the views of a human person is actually the sociological factor. So, what art pieces can be found in a certain era represents the way they live, their belief and tradition. And everything is different from one society to another. So those are the different assumptions of art. Thank you for listening.